All right, welcome back to the You Can't Fool You podcast, where old school values have a modern edge. And before we start the show, I want to give a huge shout out to the Vertigo Center, helping you find balance when the world won't stop spinning. So if you or a loved one are suffering with balance, dizziness, or vertigo, please contact thevertigocenter.com to take your first steps towards steady living today. We have our guest Kirk Driver on today. What's going on, Kirk?
Hey, how you doing, Rock? Good to see
I'm
you. Good to be
great.
on your
Good.
program.
Yeah, we had a great conversation, our pre-podcast call. So I'm really excited for today. What you said, you're down in Costa Rica right now?
I am, as a matter of fact, flew in last night. So I live in the
Nice.
Fort Worth area, and we are at an all-inclusive resort in Guanacaste uh, for a Texas country music festival. Like 3 days
Okay.
of country music. Yeah, it's a good time. Like everyone's down
Nice.
here in their shorts and their linen shirts or t-shirts and cowboy hats. So it's
And
good
cowboy
stuff.
hats. Nice.
Yeah,
I've been to Costa
yeah.
Rica once and it was a blast. I really enjoyed
Uh,
Costa Rica. I loved it.
Love it. It's a little
It was
rainy, but on and off, get a little sunshine so my wife can get out by the pool. But yeah, we're in Costa Rica. Who cares?
yeah, you can't complain. Can't complain too much.
Exactly.
All right, good. Good, good, good. So we talked in our pre-conversation, we talked a lot about values and leadership. And
Absolutely.
a lot of the show is about values and leadership and becoming the best version of yourself. What is leadership to you? What does it mean?
All right. So when you look at leadership, the basic definition of leadership, yeah, and if you Google leadership, it's all over the board. I mean, the
Yeah.
theme is pretty similar, but it's you get all these kind of crazy definitions. So yeah, the most basic one. What is leadership? Well, leadership is in its most or primitive sense, getting other people motivated to do the things that you need done. Okay, yeah, that's fair. But there's another version of leadership that I love this version, and that is getting other people to want to be motivated to, and to actually take action to become better versions of themselves. That's true leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like the difference almost between like inspiration and aspiration, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Subtle
Yep.
difference, but
There is, but there is a difference.
yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
can
And
get
I
people
think,
to become better versions of themselves, then okay, if I can motivate people to do the things I need done, okay, that's a task manager. And most of that is extrinsic, if you will. Okay, I can motivate you to fly to fly to Fort Worth, Texas, if I give you enough money. Okay,
yeah.
that's an extrinsic motivation. But if I can convince you to change your inner system to self motivate to go hit the gym, to go to school, learn more, to reach out, to become a better person, a better version of you, that becomes an intrinsic motivation. And that's where true leadership lies.
Yeah. And I guess the big question is
You
like,
see
how
the
do we get
difference.
people to, yeah. But the question is like, how do we get people to do that? Because it's definitely, it's much easier said than done. Like, how do we get people to
But
do that? Like, how do we stir that
it
up
is.
inside them?
And you start with, I mean, the biggest thing to stir someone up is painting the picture for them, getting them to attain their own why. Okay.
Yeah.
Why do I want to go in your world? Why do I want to go to the gym? Why do I want to improve my physical health? Okay, well, okay, to look good, that's one thing. And if you're chasing the ladies, that is a great motivation. But if you look at it from an even deeper sense, that I go to the gym, I become healthier. If I can see through the lens of someone else who looks at me when I'm in a job interview and I'm going for a job and it's me looking good, feeling good, I'm in shape. I'm not a great obese slob. I've got my stuff together. I've educated myself. I've done those things that require intrinsic motivation. If I can paint the picture for you of how that's going to help you land that job over the other guy, now we've added a why.
Yeah.
If I can show you, and most of your guys are a younger set, but the guys my age, if I can show them that, hey, it's not about not just longevity of life, but quality of life.
Oh
And if
yeah.
I can show you how stretching, yoga, weightlifting, actually putting your body under tension and under load, how that is not only going to extend your life, but extend your quality of life, that you're not going to be tied to a bed or an oxygen mask when you're 80, that you can actually be mobile and go out and do things and go to Costa Rica and or other places around the world and not, again, not be laying in a bed feeling like dirt, just can't do those cool things. And on my end of the age spectrum, that's a huge why. Because I already got the
Yeah.
girl. Okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why do I need to keep, keep myself moving and keep myself in shape, et cetera? Well, part of that, of course, that mobility issue and, further down the road, but part of it is it's my brand. I want to present myself where when people, when my wife's friends see her, they're like, damn, your husband's decent looking guy, he's in great shape, et cetera, et cetera. That's
Yeah.
important too. And for me, back to where, how do you motivate? Let me paint the picture and show you the why for you inside, why it's important to you to do these things.
Yeah.
If you
There's
can
a great
access that for someone, then motivating them becomes a whole lot easier.
Yeah, there's a great Jim Rohn. I'm a big Jim Rohn fan.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
tend to quote him a lot. Um, he says about it's hard to like commit to the future if you can't see it's hard to pay the price if you can't see the promise. And
exactly,
so
exactly.
the we have to paint the picture on paying the price to commit to the promise. So we paint the picture, like you just said, of paint the picture of what the promise can look like. And this is if you pay the price, this is what the promise is. And I
Sure,
think
absolutely.
him saying that, I think it's great. And we have to help people we have to see the promise that's there,
Yeah,
And so it's hard. It's easy. It's hard. It's hard. It's a lot easier said than done. But again, it's like setting the sail in the right direction, knowing where the
it
destination
is.
is.
Yep. And even a few degrees off in the long term will not get you where you need to be. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned sailing. I love sailing. I'm
Yeah.
uh, avid. I've been a few times. Did a week about 2 years ago. Did a week a 45-foot catamaran sailboat, 4 bedroom, 4 bath, uh, with 3 other couples in the British Virgin Islands, and we sailed just island hopped all over the place. And I will
Nice.
tell you, they say attitude and altitude, right? You know the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, altitude is how high you are. Attitude is your relationship. Are you going down? Or are you going up? Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing on a horizontal platform with a boat. Okay. Okay. In that a few degrees off may not matter today, may not
Mhm.
matter but 12
But
hours from now, you're 100 miles off course.
yeah.
Okay. And that's the same. I mean, in all aspects of our life. You can go work out and do your thing. Okay, you're trying to cut weight, trying to cut fat and gain muscle mass. And man, you can do that. You can go smash protein drinks and your chicken and rice and eat lean and everything. And then you can go out every night and knock down a 12 pack of beer. And you've just pushed yourself off course. Okay. And it may not seem like a lot at first, but cumulatively it adds up and you're farther and
Yeah.
farther on the road. Okay. That extra 12 pack of beer. Yeah. You do that every night. One night. Okay. You can course correct for that the next day, but you do that every night and you're going to find, wow, I'm gaining, over the next 6 months, I gained an extra 10 pounds of flat. And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that, again, every now and then, yeah, fine. Once a week, you gotta go out and knock it out for part of a day, not the whole freaking day. That doesn't mean pizza and ice cream and birthday cake
Everything.
and smashing down beers and margaritas and everything else. What that means is it's okay to have a cheap meal, but it's not okay to do that every day.
Yeah. Your lifestyle. And that brings you to the thing of like on moderation. I think a lot of times we think we're doing things in moderation, and it's really like define moderation, right?
Exactly.
You know,
If moderation is, well, I just have one bourbon every night. Well, great. Okay. That bourbon isn't, it isn't to pour at the restaurant. It's to pour at the house. So it's 3 times as big. And you just added an extra 400 calories. Okay.
yeah,
Come on. That's
yeah,
that's not sustainable if you're trying to get in shape. Now take
yeah. I
that
mean,
to every other aspect of your life, not just the drinking, but apply that to, okay, I'm studying and trying to do something. I'll just take off today. Okay. I'll just take off, I don't have to work as hard. Well, let me tell you, you need to work as hard. And if you're not jazzed and excited and motivated and your hair's on fire for it, revisit the why. You got to come back to the why. Why am I doing this? And on some stuff, if the why is not enough, then you got to figure out do I even want to do?
yeah, yeah. And that's a hard question to answer sometimes. You know.
It is a hard question to answer, and it's something that you have to sit with yourself on for a little bit. And I do that on the regular. So as we've talked before, I started a leadership system called Zero Gray, and not to push us into plug that, but the
Oh, yeah,
first 10.
let's talk about it.
Okay, so Zero Gray leadership. I just retired from the Fort Worth Police Department. I got 34 years on the job. I retired as a captain. I was overseeing, 110, 120 people at any given time. And these are high speed, low drag guys. We're talking narcotics officers, gang officers, vice officers that are going out, and they're dealing with some of the worst folks out there. And in my experiences moving up through the rank, plus 6 years of Marine Corps prior to that, Desert Storm era. Most of your guys weren't even born when this went. I get that. But the point being, I got all these leadership experiences, some as the receiver, a lot of them as the receiver, and quite a bit of it as the producer, the giver of those leadership lessons. And a lot of leadership training. People don't realize, you understand with the military how much leadership training there is. Law enforcement and fire service, a lot of leadership training as well, because when you get on the scene of the call, crisis involved, fast moving operation. Number one, I mean, yes, our supervisors internally have to lead the troops, but the officers who arrive on the scene, they have to lead the people that are there through that crisis.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, the officer shows up on scene of a domestic, that officer's in charge of the scene. He has to
Yeah,
figure out, was there a crime? He has to figure out, how do I keep the victim safe? And how do I arrest the perpetrator if that actor's on the scene? And do that safely for both him and the officers. Okay. So there's a lot of leading moments in that I've been a party to. And I've seen good and I've seen bad. So coming up on retirement, I'm like, what am I going to do in retirement? Because I'm too young to just sit on the porch and rust. So I started. I came up with this idea. I want to do keynote speaking. I want to impart the lessons. I want to teach. Well, what do I teach? Well, leadership. That's right in my wheelhouse, because I've been a part of leadership for so many years. And and that's a huge topic. Leadership. I mean, you got
yeah, oh yeah,
a whole range of stuff. But my niche, however you pronounce it, is what I call zero gray leadership. I've seen a gap. I see an opportunity here in that so many organizations have so much gray area internally that uh, it's this is a leadership failure. Lack of clear communication, lack of set standards that have been pushed out to everyone. Everyone knows the standards. Lack of enforcing those standards, et cetera, et cetera. You talk about this sitting down and defining what is the why.
Yeah.
The first thing I talk about when I discuss leadership, zero gray leadership, is setting your own moral compass. And that's part of the why. In that, don't even think you can lead anyone else until you have your own moral compass set. When I come across this situation, how am I going to deal with that? If someone challenges my ethics, meaning they're asking or telling me that I need to step into a situation that is absolutely opposed to my value system, how do I respond to that? And that's part of that. I'm going to sit down with myself alone and figure out where I stand on this stuff. That's part of that why conversation, because not only am I going to talk with myself about what I'm going to do, but more clearly and more importantly, why I do that. Okay. If the boss asks me, hey, I need you to fudge some numbers, it's gotta, I know we're not supposed to do this, but I need you to fudge these numbers so that when we report, we look good to the shareholders, whatever have you. And this is a civilian world type problem. Okay. What do you say to that? Well, it's kind of hard to push back against it if you haven't pre-gamed this ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And so you pre-game with yourself. What do I do if the boss asks me to do something compromising? Okay, well, even before you get to the how I'm going to respond, you got to get to the why am I going to respond this way? This makes me feel icky inside. Okay, what does that say about it? Why do, if I'm going to respond, no, I'm not going to do this. Tell yourself why. Okay, and it has to be personal. Why do I not? Why? Because I am a man of integrity. Now I've defined, and if you're telling yourself that, why I'm a man of integrity, well, you have to own that. Okay. You got a girlfriend or a wife and some other hottie, comes on to you. Well, it's the same situation. Why am I not going to do that? Not just because it's going to hurt her, not just because she's going to be mad, and may break up with me, but even more intrinsically, why am I not going to do that? Because I'm a man of integrity. And as a man of integrity, we don't do that. And when you've established that, now everything feeds into that. And with that, the answers become easy.
Yeah. So it sounds like the moral compass.
That's
your moral compass is like
I'm setting my moral compass.
Those are your moral compass is your values.
Mm-hmm.
Because they guide they guide your decision making.
Exactly. And the most basic of that, for me, I am a man of integrity. I can't say I've been that way my whole life. There have been times that I've done some things I am not proud of. And I'll tell you, anyone who lives into adulthood is going to have those situations that, I look back on that, man, I screwed that one up. And we all have that, and that's fine. But from this day forward, if you're just stepping away from that, great. I am a man of integrity, and a man of integrity does not do these things. Therefore, I do not do these things, period. End of story. And that makes all the other decisions a lot easier. And that's a gray area in the individual
and sometimes
that we're cleaning out. You locked up. Are you there? Nope.
trying to sit.
All right, it shows I'm still recording. So while we're waiting on him, team, zero gray. So it's about, we talked about the moral compass stuff, but it's all about removing all of the ambiguity that you can in the things that you control. Okay. If you draw this big circle and look, anything inside the circle I can control. Anything outside I can't. If all of this is still clouded with ambiguity, I don't know what the standards are, or this person seems to be exempt in my organization. The bosses aren't hitting him when he violates the standards, or her when she violates them. But this one over here, they're hammering her on every little thing. You've got an ambiguity that will kill your organization. And more importantly, with this ambiguity inside, you are very ill equipped to deal with what's outside the organization. If you clear up in here and everything's on a set standard, the same standards, it's being enforced fairly, that really locks things in for the team to deal with those ambiguities outside your organization. So, that being said, the next part of zero gray that I like to talk about is we talked about holding everyone to the same standards, okay? We talked about actually setting a standard for your organization. Clear communications. Clear communications isn't just about me saying, here's what we need to do. It's also, just as importantly, can the people under you recite those expectations, recite those standards? Because if they can't, you failed in your communication to them. Clear standards, communicated clearly, that they can read back to you or cite back to you, that everyone is on the same page. We all know the standards. We all know what we're supposed to be doing here. Okay? Well, let's talk on another side of things. Let's talk. Okay, I've been talking to the camera. I hope,
That's all right. That's good. That's good. It's still recording. It's still recording.
Okay,
So
good.
keep going.
Yeah, I
keep
figured
going.
it is. So welcome back, Rockne, to the
We're back.
to the show.
We're back.
So-
We're back.
So I was talking to the camera. I was talking about clear communication and inside the organization, getting all the gray out that you can. So clear identified standards, communicated to everyone, that everyone can not only has heard, but can recite back. Okay. If I tell you something, well, okay, I've told you something and you even signed for it. Okay. Yeah. You told me this. And then, 2 days later, I asked you and you're like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Well, how effective was that communication?
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Not
And this
very.
is a gray area. Again, we're removing the gray inside the organization because everything.
It's expectations, right? Like making
not
sure
just
clear expectations are set.
That's the first of them. So what is our mission?
Yeah.
Okay. If you don't know the mission of your organization, you're just a cog in the wheel. You are not bought into it.
Which is going to it's going to be harder to drive behavior if you're not committed to the
absolutely. And not just behavior, but motivation. Okay. Why am I doing this? Okay. I'm just rubber stamping this, doing that.
You see that
whatever.
a lot. You see that
Absolutely.
a lot in just like everyday businesses, right? Like go into a grocery store or go into like a Chipotle or you just go into any store and it's like, well, what's going on?
Exactly. So, the
grocery store is the one that gets me because you walk in and it's like, well, I don't know where everything is. And so I'm like, hey, do you know where, where can I find coffee? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't know?
And don't get me wrong, it just doesn't work with everyone. But what would happen if the manager of that store, the shift manager, whatever, once a week pulled his team in and said, hey guys, do you know that this last week we provided X number of tons of groceries? Let's say, I'm going to make up a number. The grocery store down the street from me, they do pretty good business. So let's say if the manager said, this last week we provided 73 tons, that's 2,000 pounds, 73 tons. What is that? 146,000 pounds of groceries, feeding right around 4,000 families. How cool is that? And you know what? You guys made it happen. You're the stalker. You know what? You stocking that product right, putting it on the shelf. People, it's easy to find for the people. And man, because you did that, you make a difference. You, the cashier, you're helping people get through the line. You know how many people that you served last week? I got the numbers right here. And last week on your part-time shift, you served 600 people. That's buying groceries for 600 families. So you provided a service to, on an average, 2,300 people or 2,200, whatever the number is. You get my point. And if you make it personal, and if you tell them, hey, what, Joey, I was out here the other day, you're stocking, someone came up and asked where the coffee was, and man, you knew right where it was, boom, and you sent them to it. Good job, dude. Because you know our product and you know how important it is for our public image, and you did it right.
Yeah.
What's Joey going to think the next day?
He's going to feel good about himself.
He's going to feel good about himself, and he's going to represent your brand better. That's clear communications. That's positive reinforcement. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you got some dude who's coming in stoned to work and you know it, and he's just screwing off half the day, but you don't fire him, what's the message it sends to the people who are coming in on time? When he's coming in late too, looking like a slob.
Yeah.
Fire
It's
him.
okay.
What is it?
It's okay.
Does it send the guy or gal who is coming in on time, who is trying to do the right thing?
It's like, why should I do that? This person's getting away with it. Why should I do that?
So, clearly defined standards and equal enforcement of those standards. And you don't have to be a jerk to do it. Okay. But you got to be equal. It's the same with, like if you and I are doing the same job, okay, we come to work wearing the same color shirt, we're doing the same job, and we are equally trained for this, we're doing equal work, we both get the same performance evaluation. We have the same boss, he gives the same performance evaluation, but one up from him determines our raises. And everything's equal. But this guy knows me, and he knows I got a family, you're a single guy. You know what? He gives me a 5% raise and you only get a 3. What does that do? What does my family status have to do with my work product or yours? 0. Okay. Who cares? What did that do to you and your motivation to do right by this business? Why are you getting less than me when we're doing the same amount of work? And the problem with that, I mean, I'm not going to go too political, but that's why socialism and communism don't work. Okay. Because if we're doing equal work, we should have equal pay, right? Okay. Conversely, if I'm a drunkard, coming in drunk and I'm sleeping at the desk and you're busting it out, if we're both getting the same pay, that devalues your motivation to actually go out and do the job. Because you can look at me and go, I can come in drunk, I can sleep half the day, and I'm still getting the amount of pay, the same amount. And conversely, if we're doing the same amount of work, but I get more pay for reasons that are truly subjective, then that demotivates you to do the job. So this is what I'm talking about with zero gray.
Yeah.
Removing, we set the standards and we apply them equally across the board. We
Yeah.
remove that ambiguity, that subjectivity inside the organization. Outside the organization and outside that sphere we can control, there's always going to be a ton of ambiguity. Inside, there will always be some, but there's a lot of work we can do to tighten things up inside.
Yeah.
In the organization. Now let's take that more to a more organic level, to the individual, because the people that that we're speaking to on your show, typically young guys, high school, college guys, right? That's your target audience, okay?
Yeah.
Who are trying to better themselves. Okay. No, you're not in an official leadership role yet, but an unofficial leadership role. Let's go back to that definition at the very beginning. My definition that I like of leadership is, if you're motivating other people to be better versions of themselves, you're a leader. Now, what does that mean? Okay. You're on the football team with a couple other guys. You may not even be the team captain, but when someone's talking some negativity, you put them in check on that. And say, hey, man, that's not what we're about. That's not what this team is about. That's leadership. And anyone can practice leadership. It doesn't
you don't need a title. You don't need a title.
You have to have a title. That doesn't have
leader.
You just lead. You lead people. Through how? Your examples, through your motivation, through your attitude towards how you see the world, and towards calling out right from wrong. That's leadership.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that sometimes we can get wrapped up in position or titles, and then that
it's not
determines.
my job.
But you don't need to be a leader. You don't need to have a title or a position to be a leader. There's a great book by Robin Sharma. I'm a big fan of Robin Sharma as well. I read a lot of his books and study a lot of his stuff. And it's called The Leader That Had No Title. Right?
Yeah. There you go.
And it's essentially what the book is about. The principles of, like, you don't need a title to be a leader, and the leadership does start with yourself, and you got to be able to hold yourself accountable and do those things. It starts. That doesn't mean you don't have other people along the way to help, kick you in the ass and pull you along. Like, you need those people, but again, it comes back to understanding that where the compass is, the value system.
Yep.
And I don't necessarily think that we spend enough time teaching. I mean, even a lot of adults too, is really being clear on what your value system is. Like, how many people can name right off the top of their head their four values that are like, okay, this is how this is the compass. These are the guiding values of my life. Like, it's not taught unless you get it from, like, your family, but everybody doesn't have that, unless you get it from being on a team. But not all organizations are like that.
That's true. And I okay, so again, not to plug my product, but I grew up, started with the military, when I got out of high school, went to the military, boom, Marine Corps. They taught a lot of those values, and they taught a lot of the leadership lessons. Then I move into the police department. Law enforcement is a paramilitary organization. Okay. We have rank structure. We have, those codes, et cetera. We have somewhat of a, we have a very explicit
code. Yeah.
A code. Okay. And we work to adhere to that code, or we should be. But what I found, so most of my career, it was, okay, I got a couple bros I hang with here and there, and then, we do the job at work. We're real tight. Everyone goes home, and okay, we hang out every now and then as a group, but most of my friends and stuff were whoever I was in a relationship with. It's like, okay, her girlfriend's husband, that's who I'm hanging, or
right.
friend. That's pretty typical with dudes, right? It's
Yeah.
like I hang out with, well, whoever my girlfriend's friends are, their husbands or boyfriends or whatever, and we just stand around and okay, yeah, and we can become friends and stuff. So that was me for many years. So I had a buddy of mine about 12 years ago, and he says, like he recruited me to go get my MBA. He was in this MBA program at TCU, Go Frogs. So he's in this MBA program. He recruits me to do it. So I'm like the year behind him in this. And he also says, you need to start networking. What do you mean? It's like, you need to start meeting people. And here's, like meet people. And then you follow up with them, hey, great to meet you, blah, blah, blah. Let's meet over, and then you meet someone else. Hey, let's grab coffee. It's great to meet you the other day. Let's grab coffee. And then, so I started doing this. And I ended up working on this project, and it was I came up with this idea, and I'll tell you. So, and this applies to any field. So, as a cop, okay, I see things through a law enforcement lens. That's all I know. I mean, if you're a football coach, you see things through a football coach lens, right? That's just how it works.
Yeah.
And so there's an old saying: if your only tool is a hammer, if all you got is a hammer, man,
everything's a nail.
For nails, right? Everything's a nail. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm working on this MBA, and okay, the lessons itself were great. Okay, I learned finance, I learned accounting, negotiations, all that other stuff. That's cool. But the bigger thing it did for me is it gave me a new lens through which to look at life. Because I've expanded out of just law enforcement. Now I've got other disciplines at play. And so I come up with this idea for a community engagement project. Boss says run with it. And my buddy's saying, start networking. Now I've got a cause. So I start networking in the nonprofit world, and I assemble this coalition, and we target this one apartment complex. So it's in the standard role, if you've got an issue, you have to self-identify. I've got this issue. I need to get it fixed. I got to find the nonprofit that services it or the agency that services, then I got to get in front. Okay. So if you got 5 or 6 issues in your family, that's a lot of steps. So the idea I had was, let's create this coalition: social services, education, employment services. What does the police department bring to the table? Leadership. And we're the guys in the home answering the calls. We're in front of the people at their most neediest time.
Yeah.
We can get direction. So the idea was, let's proactively go into one apartment complex. You got population density, so bigger bang for the buck. Let's do a survey and identify all the families, every need each family has, and then let's, through these partner agencies, bring a tailored prescription of services to their home. And wow, it really took off, and I mean we got some good penetration. They ended up creating a new nonprofit behind all this. But my point in all this is this networking. I've grown my network out, and before, when I was in a very closed group, I only saw law enforcement stuff. So this big network that I've got includes, now I'm friends with business owners, heads of nonprofits, school district people, college folks, et cetera. And back to the leadership thing. So all these leadership lessons I learned, it was just an assumption on my part for all these years that, every organization does this. And they don't. I found the world and in the nonprofit world, they are hungry for leadership, because in my world, you got to go to in-service training every year or two, and in that there's always a leadership component, or how to de-escalate a situation, how to resolve this crisis type stuff. And then every time you want to promote, there's a leadership book on there, Simon Sinek or Jim Rohn, or there's someone on there every year, one or two, right? So through all the, and I thought other organizations were the same.
Yeah.
The world is not. Now the guys
Yes.
in the C-suite who get there, they figured it out on their own how to lead the people to some extent. They've probably read these books just because they're motivated to help themselves to. But I'll tell you, first line, second line, third line supervisors, yeah, by and large, the majority of them have this. And it shocked me that, and I saw it, well, here's a gap that I can step into and convert the lessons I've learned in law enforcement and military and turn them into the civilian world. And I'll tell you, I mean, I'm getting a lot of positive press from that. Spoke
Yeah.
to a group of younger professionals. I say younger, the 25 to 30 crowd. And these guys, like, they start taking notes and everything. It's like, and afterwards, it's like, man, I've never heard some of these lessons, and this is great stuff. I will apply this tomorrow.
Yeah. Similarly, I mean, I think sporting teams are like that too. I
They
mean,
are. But the problem with the sporting,
but not all of them, not all of them preach those same things as well, right?
right.
So,
And the problem with that is, okay, you turn 18 and you're done, or you graduate from college and you're done,
now you're
and
lost.
you're not getting reinforced on those lessons. And when you're in there, great. What are you going to do with that later in life?
Yeah.
And are these lessons that you can carry forward? And are you going to carry them forward
Yeah.
into your organizations?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I came from a high school program that really that's what it was all that's what it was all about. And then you get to college and you say, hey, maybe things are a little bit different. The
Right.
programs not run the same. And then as you get to college, you meet kids from other high school programs, and you realize like, I had a little bit different of experience than maybe, and they had a little bit different of experience than me. And so sometimes your sports teams is similar to, like you'd say, the civilian world, where you would think that all sports teams, all businesses, all are teaching this idea of leadership, but like it's
And they're
not
not.
not necessarily. No.
Well, even at the pro level, I would say that there's a huge difference in the leadership styles of, for instance, I don't know, Tom Coughlin versus Jimmy Jones
Yeah.
versus Schweitzer versus Tom Landry. I'm an old Cowboys fan, and they disappoint every year, so it's one of those things.
Go
But
birds. Go birds.
yes, I was just what was a couple days ago. I was where was I? I was somewhere. I was at an event, and the guy was like, he was a total Eagles fan. He came in from Philly, and I'm like, oh,
There you go. There you go.
was it like 15 years straight rated rudest fans in the NFL?
No, we're not that rude.
It was
Come
like rudest city in America, I think, 15 years straight in some survey. But you're the ones who
We're-
pack batteries and snowballs. What are you
we're
talking
not unless provoked. Unless provoked.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a huge rivalry there. Like I said, I'm an old Cowboys fan, but hey, next year's our season, right? Every year,
Always it.
next year's
It
our
always is, right?
the last time we won a Super Bowl, yeah, those cheerleaders, they're my age. Okay. So
Well,
it's been a few years.
So one thing we can always count on is for the Cowboys to choke.
Yep.
We can always count. We can always count on that.
But back to the point, though, the leadership of this team could be completely opposite the leadership of this team. And you could have two teams that are actually competitive and running up through, going through the playoffs and everything else, and have totally different leadership styles. Because leadership there's so much and there's so many ways to achieve it. But in the end, there's some stuff that's very basic. It doesn't matter if you're a servant leader, lead from the front, lead from the middle of the pack, lead from the sidelines, whatever. There's some very basic things. And again, it's moral compass. It's clear and effective communication, removing ambiguity from that organization so that everyone's on clearly defined goals. Everyone knows, everyone's bought into what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And these are the things we talked about with moral compass, with understanding your mission, understanding your why, all of those things. Those are primed to. Doesn't matter the style of leadership, because this isn't about a leadership style thing. And the stuff I'm teaching, this isn't rocket science. This isn't some crazy voodoo stuff. This is very basic, organic. Get rid of all this confusion inside. Get everyone on the same team. Everyone focused on the why. Everyone intrinsically motivated. And that's how we succeed.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're a servant leader or a lead from the front command and control guy.
Yeah. I think that's a good place to sort of tie this up. That's perfect right there. Is there anything we didn't talk about today around leadership that you feel like we either missed or that we got to cover?
I don't think this is a leadership thing, but I will tell you something.
Yeah.
I read this morning that I absolutely loved, and I hope will resonate with your audience.
Yeah.
That is the let me it's the there it is, the space. So it was some other guy's article, and it's the space between a thought and reaction. Okay. And I really would like your audience to focus on their own lives. Someone does something, someone says something, and I've been guilty of this too. It's real easy to respond. Wife says something catty to me, and I can respond back with that same amount of energy.
Yeah.
Just reflect back what was given to you. Some dude, some guy cuts you off, and honk, 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 flipping them off, all this other. That's easy to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a reaction. And that is a thoughtless reaction. And you want to look at the background. Where does that come from? It's a very primitive flight or fight. Someone does this stuff. I gotta post up. Okay. And what I say is, we are human beings. We are not animals. Okay. If you slow it down just long enough to give some thought before the reaction, do I need to do this? And it doesn't have to be this huge, complicated, well, what were they thinking today? Oh, are they having a bad day, or have they do this? It's, all right, hold. Do I need to respond, and what does that response need to be?
Yeah.
And if you want to take it a step further, what does the response look like that adheres to my values?
Yeah.
And the person I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. If you can hold that response, we're talking a second. And I'm not talking if some dude's swinging on you, okay, and you got to defend yourself. That's a whole different matter.
Right.
But I'm
This is just like an everyday sort of thing.
Just an everyday, okay, somebody, like your girlfriend snaps at you. Hold. Before anything comes out of my mouth, hold. What do I need to say that's going to inherit to my values? And it takes longer for me to say that than it does to think that.
Yeah, I think that's great.
If you give yourself that second or two to process before
make huge difference.
And it makes a difference in so much of your world. It does, because if you smart off back to the girlfriend, man, she's gonna be bad for you.
Yeah, we don't want that.
You're gonna, you freaking flip this dude off. Now you're in a road rage incident. Now you may win this one, but your car's damaged and got in a fight at the side of the road. That type of stuff that is avoidable. Like, okay, yeah, that dude, he got one over on me, and I don't know him, and I'll never see him again. So what is it?
Yeah, definitely.
So what I say is, you've got the action. Before you respond to it, give yourself that little bit of space to put a thought in there in your head. How should I react based upon the person that I am?
Yeah.
The person that I want to be.
Save you a whole lot of inconvenience down
Saves a whole lot of problems.
the road. Where can people go to stay up with what you're doing?
All right. Zerogray.com, Zerogram, the American version, not the British version. zerogray.com. Run it all together, okay? Don't try and look up zero space gray. You're going to get a bunch of hair products and stuff, which apparently my Zero Gray is not working for that. But nonetheless, zerogray.com is my website. That tells you everything. If you want to drop me a line, you can also hit me at Kirk, Kirk, at kirkdriver.com.
I'll make sure to link all of it in the show notes. That way it's easy and convenient for people to check out.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.